My name is BD Welch, and I'm rewriting a fantasy novel from the ground up. This is day 2 of prep for the Rough Draft Challenge in April from Heart Breathings, and we start writing on Wednesday. You're coming with me, so grab a cup of tea, your favorite notebook or keyboard, and get cozy. Welcome to the rebellion.
Okay, guys, I am skipping a few pages. I'm skipping the one of the idea brainstorm section here because this is an idea I already know that I'm working on. So I am going to start right here with the actual project. And I'm just going to jump in and fill the stuff out with the things I know. This is going to be Phoenix and Shadow. And the basic premise or the problem that we're working on here is going to be that Henry and his friends discover there's a darkness in the world and only they can fight it. Now, I do have 4 main characters. My protagonist, my main character, is going to be Henry. So I'll underline him. But then I also have his best friend, Percy. I also have the fire mage, Ember. And my bad guy, and his name is Ukum. Other extremely important side characters I have are Henry's adoptive father, David, Ember's mentor, Kudrid, Percy and Henry's swordmaster, Seleth, Percy's father, Lucas, and then some characters they meet later on in the world, Maeva, Gilizzi, and Daralis, and Umut. So there's a few other teeny tiny characters in there, but these are the important ones. Our villain is the Darkbringer. However, in this novel, it is by way of Ukum. Because Ukum is kind of the Darkbringer's henchman. He's kind of the mini-boss before we face the big boss. The main overall conflict is that Ukum attacks their home at Daven's Hold. And kidnaps Ember. Henry and Percy are going to journey through a dangerous land to rescue her. They find and rescue Ember. Learn a secret about Henry's family, and I know what the secret is, but I'm not going to give it away. I'm not too worried about spelling here because this is just for my reference. And Ukum, who is in disguise, joins their group. One of my favorite things to do is to write people who are undercover or in disguise. And so Ukum, who is actually our antagonist here, if Henry's our protagonist, Ukum is our antagonist. He actually is in disguise as a good guy for most of the entire story. And down here, when they actually rescue Ember, he's still in disguise as a good guy and gets kind of swept along in the rescue. So he ends up in the party with the rest of them, which causes a whole bunch of fun conflicts later on. I don't know what's on my page, but it's fine. List up to 10 possible scenes. So, because this draft is almost completely finished, there's a lot of scenes, but I can put in some of the most important ones. The race at the beginning, is one of the more important scenes. The time tunnel, which we will talk about as we go. We do travel through time a little bit, but I promise it's a fantasy way, not a sci-fi way. It's going to be great. The attack on David's Hold, which is the town that Henry, Percy, and Ember grow up in. And then we have their journey kind of begins. And so the first gigantic scene that we have in kind of the Act 2 section of the story is going to the depths, which is the black market that Maeva runs. And they meet Maeva and Galeesi. I shorten his name to Gil. He's one of my favorite characters. He's a little bit of an in-disguise character as well. We'll learn more about him as we go. But Gil is a great character. And then we have the tunnels, where they try to break into the castle, and they get lost. This is where they meet Ukum, who guides them. Ukum is not a character in disguise, but he is a character who wears many faces, and that will make a whole lot more sense when you guys meet him later on. But, I'm sorry, Ukum. I always get their names mixed up because they are fairly similar names for a reason. But the character I'm actually talking about is Umut. And Umut is not a character in disguise, but has many faces that he wears. And he is he acts as sort of a mentor, kind of, but he's also slightly crazy. I don't know. He's cool. I love Umut. Umut is awesome. And then we have the final showdown. And this switches all point of views. I do switch between my four main characters' points of view throughout the book. So this one kind of has all of them in it, which is great. And then we have Henry's family secret reveal. And then we meet Umut again for a brief moment. And we learn a little bit about where he comes from. And he gives them a gift. And then we have a cliffhanger drop. And I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger as to what that means right now. But these are not by far the only scenes in the novel, but these are some of the most important scenes in the novel. And then I think I'm going to go through and work this out on my own. I have about 15 minutes before I wake the kids up. So I'll get back with you when I have about 5 minutes left, and we'll kind of check in and see where I'm at. I think I'm going to go through here and kind of talk you through what I'm thinking. I have done a lot of character work on Henry over the past couple of days. And so I know that Henry he's not really stuck up, but he is overconfident. And one thing I talked with Brandon about is that he is not willing to take a loss for an answer. Here at the beginning, he's a little bit of the kind of character that thinks any means are worth justifying in order to get to the end. And so it doesn't matter if you cheat, it doesn't matter if you betray somebody. All that matters is that you win in the end. All that matters is that you stay alive. But that's because he hasn't had any real-world consequences to those actions yet, which he is definitely going to run into. Their normal world, Henry, Percy, and Ember are finishing their education. And they are at the final race. Before their graduation. And this feeds into the opening scene. So we start with a Henry and Percy sword fight. This is the part that I'm changing. This is the part that is new. I originally started with them kind of accidentally starting a fire in the kitchen, and Ember comes in and helps them put it out because she's a fire mage, and they get in trouble for it. That felt too kid-ish for what I'm going for here. So we start them with the sword fight, but they're just warming up, getting ready for the final test. And I like this because it kind of pulls us in medias res, which means in the middle of things. And that's not just that I pull us into them in the middle of a sword fight, but it also shows us in the middle of their lives, in the middle of who they are. And by the end of the sword fight, we actually end up here with our dramatic question that occurs rather early on. Will Henry mature enough to deserve his birthright? Now, what he thinks is his birthright right now is not actually his birthright, but he will learn that later on. The question still stands. How does the main character feel about our conflict or disturbance? Here we run into his personality comes through here. How does he feel about this? Right now, he feels he sees things the right way. But the reactions of his mentors tell us differently. And then our inciting incident, what begins the story conflict. Well, we've got our little Davenshold castle over here. And I'm not a artist at all. And then there is a wall that is kind of dilapidated that runs for a very long time, almost like, I was talking to Brandon again the other day, it's almost like a cross between Hadrian's Wall and the Great Wall of China, but there's a gigantic race that happens along this wall. So they have traveled out, and they are going to race back along the wall as part of their graduation, like their final test they have to do. And when they get back to Davenshold, they're going to learn that Davenshold has been attacked. And there's actually another scene that happens in here. So they get back, there's a little bit of a celebration. They go do another thing with the time tunnels, and then they return, and they learn that Davenshold has been attacked, and Ember has been captured. Their life has changed, and they must go on the journey that is given to them. The key event that locks our character into the main conflict is that Davin, who is an amazing character that I love, but I'm going to kill him, and Ember has been captured. No one else can go after her except for Henry and Percy, and they have no longer anything to stay for, and so they leave on their journey. The first doorway of no return is that they are going to meet Lucas as a survivor. He is Percy's father, but it is revealed that he has actually been taken over by a shadow. And we'll talk more about the difference between shades and shadows and darklings as we go through. They're kind of my bad guy minion characters that are controlled by Ukum. We'll talk more about that as we go through. But he has been turned into a shade, and he is going to be the one who sends them on their way. And we know, but they don't, a little bit of dramatic irony here, that they are walking straight into a trap. All right. Where is that coming from? What am I doing? I don't know. This is my new desk that Brandon got for me like yesterday. The main character's response to the doorway is to be, as he is, overconfident. And unwilling to think that he might lose. He's very... There's only one O in lose. It's fine. He's going to find out differently. What is their plan to deal with it? They are going to follow the cart that Ember is in. It's leaving really good tracks right now. Because she is a fire mage, they have her in an iron cart, so it's very, very heavy, so she can't set it on fire. They're going to follow this cart. And challenges and conflicts. I'm just going to put a lot, because this is the part of the story that is mostly written. I'm going to make a few changes to the relationship that pops up between Ember and Ukum. And I am not talking about a romantic relationship in any sense of the word. He is a very bad guy who is trying to manipulate and control her by acting like a good guy and also acting like a bad guy. There's some switching back and forth in the way he portrays himself to her, and she doesn't realize it. So I need to make some tweaks to this as we go through. And I'm hearing my son's alarm go off, so it's about time for me to be done. And throughout all of this, Henry begins to learn a few things. He begins to learn that the world is much larger than he believes, and it is much more complicated. And my world is about to get larger and more complicated as well, because we've got to go get ready for school. So I will check back in later.